back to this, when that came time to do that, I was stressing out because I knew I would never get it exactly like that. And so I went to the house and went to the refrigerator and started gobbling down lunch. I was starved, and to distract myself from the stress of this. And then I said, that's it. I said, I'll go to the phone book and look up under product development. And I found a guy named Emil Vicali out of Danbury, Connecticut. He was one of 2 companies that did product development. I called him up. I said, I'm designing a handle for a tool bag. Can you do a computer-generated drawing of this? And he said, yeah, I'll take a look at it. I said, about how I come up tomorrow? He says, yeah, come on up. I went up, met with him. He was a one-man shop, and I said, this is really important. I said, I got to go to Nova Scotia. I have a place up in Nova Scotia. I got to go to Nova Scotia the next day. I said, this is really, but if this is really important, and I'll blow that trip off, I got to stay here if you need me. And he says, I don't need you. He says, go to Nova Scotia, and you and I can fax back and forth. I said, I don't have a TV up there. I don't have a fax machine. I just go up there and stare at the ocean and go out on the ocean. I said, you know what I'll do? I said, I'll go up to the boat shop. They probably got a fax machine. So I called up Paul DeVoe, who has a boat building shop up there. I said, Paul, do you got a fax machine? He says, yes, I do. I said, mind if I use it? I'm going to be coming up there, and I want to fax some information back and forth. He said, no problem. So I got up there and went up to his shop, gave him $20. And then Emil and I would go up in the morning, and Paul would say, Roger, you got a fax machine. What is this? What's a handle for? I said, it's for a tool bag. And so Emil and I faxed back and forth several times. He sent me several different drawing versions, and then I finally approved them one and okayed it. And he says, and Emil said, okay, now that you've approved this, he said, when you come back, I will have a rapid prototype version of the handle. He said, you can, the rubber overmolded grip and the plastic handle. He said, you can hold it, you can feel it, you can grip it, you can chew on it. If you're happy with it, he said, I can send them a 3D file, and you don't have to whittle it out of wood, and they can make it from the 3D file. So, so that's basically, how it got started. And he sent the file, and then they made the handle, and then after I got the next sample with the handle, the handle needed to be tweaked. The handle was too thin, and I felt it needed to be thicker, and went from a 1/4 inch thickness, the plastic handle, and brought it up to 3/8. So Emil had to redo the 3D file, redesign it to get that thickness, and they had to make another tool in it. And then George says, it's time for you to come over to China. So my first trip to China, and I stayed out on this big golf resort. They had 18 holes, people playing golf through the night, frog ponds, these bullfrogs going off all night long. So it was 3 trips to China, and all the detail, we don't have the Model XL here, but that's the one that I first started. But all this detail on the outside.
I think that's the one I have at home.
Is the XL?
Is XL and XXL.
Yeah, those are the very first ones.
Yeah, I think I got.
Yeah, because it was the XL.
Yeah.
And then 2 years later, I did the LC, which is it. This is the LC platform.
Yeah.
Which is smaller than the XL, and then the big double XLF. That was 2 years later.
I got that one. I love it.
So that was like 3 trips to China, is designing all the detail on the outside. So I take the hotel, or rather the bag. First, there was nothing on there. And, I wake up in the middle of the night, and, you have an idea for, I want pockets on the outside, so you got to have 2 vertical webbings, because the pockets have to terminate underneath something. So these became functional, capturing the ends of cut fabric to make a pocket. So all that stuff got figured out in the 3 trips to China, and then finally approved and went into production. And I got the lumberyard that I was using as a contractor, the head buyer. I had a meeting with him. I had all 3 all-black samples, and said to him, his name is Dave Rohr. I said, Dave, I'm going to be introducing a tool bag that I'll bring to market. He said, we're doing a 100th anniversary home show down at the Greenwich Hardwood. He said, why don't you take out a table and, to get some feedback. So I had these little cards made up, 4x6 cards, that introducing the VetoProPack Model XL and launching at $119.95. and that was in end of January, the show, and I took 48 pre-orders. I didn't take anybody's credit card, just a little box that you would, when they came in, you would be interested in possibly purchasing it. So I took 48 pre-orders. So he called me up a couple days later. He said, "How'd you do it?" I said, "I took 48 pre-orders." He said, "You did?" He said, "If you took 24, and they placed my first PO for 80 bags. And then he called up Riverhead Supply over in Long Island, another good family-owned lumberyard. They had 7 locations over there too. And Riverhead Supply placed the PO. But I didn't get the bag. The bags didn't come in until that following September.
What year was that?
That would have been 2002. So that was at the end of 2002. So they were supposed to come in August, but I didn't get them until September. And so my first trade show was at the JLC Live show. That was put on by the Journal of Light Construction. It's a remodeling show. There's a lot of sawdust flying in that show because guys are showing you how to frame a dormer or lay out and build stairs or flash a dormer, or put asphalt shingles on a roof. So I went to a sawmill and I got a piece of Whin-Yates edge oak that was about 2 feet wide, about 6 feet long, made these splayed legs, and then that was my table, and I had a little vinyl banner made up that said, introducing the Model XL VetoProPack tool bag, and launched it at that JLC Live show in March of 2003 with just 1 bag. And we just did that show. That was about a month ago, and so that was 21 years ago. The launch of VetoProPack. Now we got tons of product. But I think, looking back at this, for me, it was never about, building this business up, and that was out there. And it was always about making a tool bag, much more functional tool bag that was on the market, because most of the tool bags were designed by designers that never seriously swung a hammer in their life. So there was a disconnect. And for me, being organized, knowing where your tools are, it just clears your head so that you can focus on your work. When we did our 20th anniversary catalog, they want to know, say, what goes through your head when you design the product? So, you can break it down so we can put that in the catalog. And the things that I was doing intuitively, it came down to kind of 4 things. And number 1, it was, once you determine what the function was for this particular bag, saturated with functionality. So all the little tool pockets, all the little details where you clip your tape measure, all that little stuff was saturating it with functionality as much as I possibly could to fit into the platform of the bag itself. So that was number 1. And then number 2 was, I like quality in everything, and it just makes me feel good. I hate cheap shit, sorry for that, but I just like things that are done well. And so it was making sure that the bag is well made, so that the factories that I work with make other bag products for name brands that also required quality. So they had that capability. So the quality of the actual manufacturing was there. These are made by hand, they're not made by robots. So everything had to be, plumb, perpendicular, so that nothing was out of alignment on that. Everything was sealed, no threads hanging off of it. So all that's done. And then number 3 was quality materials. I've worked on framing crews, and as most people know, these guys are animals, and I know what it's like working with them. And so I want these bags to be able to stand up to the guys that are in that category. You have guys that are trim carpenters, and then guys that are framers, and they're different breeds. The guys that are trim carpenters are a lot more particular, and the guys that are framers are more animalistic. I can do both. I've worked them both ways. On that scale from 1 to 10, I want the bags to be able to stand up to that level of brutality. And so using the proper materials, heavy-duty body fabrics that are polyester and nylon, so 1800 denier nylon, 1200 denier nylon. Like golf bags are 600 denier nylon, which is a very thin denier. And then number 4 was having a very professional look. A very rugged, solid, classy, professional look. So all the colors were basically earth tones, The first contractor series, the body fabric was brown, all the webbing trim was gray or black, and punched out with a little red, like on the Veto Pro Pack in the grip, like the Pro is red. So you had that little visual punch, and the having that professional look, actually, which really was, I didn't really think about that, but the guys that own the bags have said that the customers compliment them on the bag, and they see the bag. The guy comes in the house, the bag's opened up, all of his tools are nicely organized, and it makes the customer feel that this guy is a professional. And he's got a professional tool bag with his tools organized. He's not coming in with a 5-gallon bucket with his tools all tossed around the bucket with a Bavarian cream donut stuck to the handle of a screwdriver, and cigarette butts in the coffee cup put out. So he's got a professional bag. He's organized, and it makes the customer feel secure about this guy in the house doing whatever he's doing in their home and all too. That's been a little kind of something that I never really thought about, but that's worked out like that. So, but anyways, those are the 4 elements that were kind of going through my head as I was designing these products. And so it's just, it's taken off. It's got a life of its own now. And, I've even had people show up my house to do things that have one of my bags, and, they have no idea that I did this. I mean, I had a hot water heater replace the tank, and the guys came in on a hand truck, and then had to muscle it. Got it off the hand truck and muscled it down the stairways into the basement. I have a lot of the first round samples down there on racks. And one guy came in, he had a plastic box full of his pipe wrenches. The other guy didn't have a tool bag. And they got down there, and the other guy without the tool bag, he said, "What are all these VetoProPack tool bags doing down there?" I said, "It's a tool bag company I started." And he ran out of the house, and he came running back in 5 minutes later, and he had the Tech MCT blackout. He said, "You designed this?" I said, "Yeah, I did." And he said, "Oh my God, I love this bag." So it's gotten out there, and it's just gotten such positive feedback about how it has helped these guys psychologically get through the day doing their work, because they're organized and they know where their tools are. For me, going out and digging around my truck looking for like a small tool, like a nested Allen wrench, because I got to change the lock sets, and I get out there and it's not there, and then I got to go to the lumberyard and buy another one, and then a week later I find the other one that I had, and then I end up having 3 or 4 duplicates of that. You set the tool bag up, you know what your tools are, they're organized there, so when you're going to the job, you know that they're in there, you've got them there, and it just clears your head so you can concentrate on your work, and it makes for a better day. So Veto Pro Pack, vertical tool organization, protected and packed. It's a quirky name, but it is what it is, and it feels good that it's helped these guys and their personal daily work routine get through the day, and so that's basically it.
I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Subscribe to my channel. Also, visit my website, and you can see what online locksmith training I have for beginners, intermediate, and advanced, as well as my covert methods of entry and my non-destructive methods of entry.